We will begin in a few minutes, but I'd like to remind everybody you might find it nice to turn off your phones. And if you need a restroom, they're in the next building. The ladies' room is all the way back in the far corner to the right of the stage, and the men's room is right as you go inside the door. Well, good morning, everyone, and welcome to Church of the Oaks as we have the joy and honor to celebrate the life of KATHRYN Ann Stewart. I have several memories of KATHRYN, but I'll share those later, perhaps. But today I'd like to just concentrate on celebrating. We've all had relationship with KATHRYN in one way or another. And today, let's concentrate on celebrating with joy and gratitude. We had a chance to have that woman in our lives, and that we can hold that as long as we want, forever. Those experiences are never going to change. They're going to be just as vibrant and just as warm and just as loving as any day in our lives. So, without further ado, Wallace, would you care to get us started this morning? Hold that microphone back to your left.
Okay, yeah. Hi. Okay. Okay. Thank you all for coming today to honor my mom's memory and celebrate the beautiful life she lived. I'm so grateful for each of you here today. I've always hated speaking in front of people, which is funny because my mom did too. But here at Church of the Oaks, she found a love for it. So today, inspired by her, I'm standing up here to tell you about my mom. Sorry, this is going to be harder than I thought. Growing up as an only child with a single mom creates a bond that's hard to describe. It's a connection I still feel every day. I don't think I fully understood just how special that bond was until I became a mom myself. Like most mothers and daughters, our relationship had both its beautiful moments and its challenges. We had big laughs and hard fights, unforgettable memories and plans for future adventures. But even during our hardest moments, our relationship was always grounded in love, understanding, safety, and support. One of the last things I said to my mom was thank you. Thank you for always giving me the freedom to be exactly who I am. I never felt afraid to tell her how I felt or what I thought. And if you know me, you know I have a lot of thoughts. Since my mom passed, many people have told me that I was her whole world, her greatest joy and greatest happiness. And I felt that every single day. I never once questioned my mom's love for me because she showed it constantly, in big ways and small ones. She sacrificed so much so that I could have a good life. And because of her, I do have a beautiful life and family. My mom grew up in Pacific Palisades in Southern California. She was the youngest of 3 children and had 2 older brothers, which may be why she connected so naturally with my boys while also sharing such a special bond with my daughter. She would tell stories about growing up near celebrities and spotting them at the grocery store wearing curlers. She talked often about what a loving childhood she had and about the special connection she had with her dad, especially toward the end of her life. I lost my grandparents when I was around 10 years old, but I still have such vivid memories of them. And because my mom loved my kids so deeply and spent so much time with them, I know they'll grow up carrying meaningful memories of her too. I will always be grateful for that. My mom was gentle, encouraging, supportive, and understanding. She cheered the loudest at my kids' baseball games, sometimes a little too loud. She would spend a lot of time just listening, and I think the people closest to her would say that was one of her greatest gifts. She was an incredible listener, deeply thoughtful, with a strong wit and a great sense of humor. When I think about my favorite memories with my mom, it's hard to narrow them down. We weren't the kind of family that took big vacations every year, but the trips we did take became core memories for me. There was the juggling festival in Lodi that we went to completely on a whim because my mom had talked to someone about it in passing. We drove out to the middle of nowhere to camp with a group of professional jugglers, barely knowing anyone. And I came home completely obsessed with something called the Diabolo. Look it up, it's cool. There was also the dog training seminar for clicker training, another camping trip in the middle of nowhere. We both came home amateur dog trainers. Another great trip we took together was a visit to her boarding school in Ojai for an alumni weekend. We stayed in the dorms, attended the weekend activities together, and she showed me this important part of her life. Even though she only stayed close with 1 or 2 friends from that time, it meant so much to her to share those memories with me. Then there was my elementary school trip to the Manteca water slides that she chaperoned when I was about 8 years old. She went down one of the long tube slides wearing her glasses, completely forgetting they were still in her face, and of course they fell off when she hit the pool at the end, never to be seen again. Afterwards, she couldn't see well enough to drive us home, so we had to get a ride with a friend. We laughed about that for years. In 2015, we took a trip to Alaska, just her, Brandon, and I, to celebrate her 65th birthday. We spent our days on excursions like whale watching and mountain train rides, then played board games and hit up the buffet in the evenings. It was pretty unforgettable. The 2 of us had some great adventures, but when I think about my most cherished memories with my mom, it's the conversations I'll remember most. I remember after I graduated college when my mom had surgery and I spent the day with her at the hospital. Surgery days involve so much waiting and downtime that we spent hours just talking. I couldn't tell you exactly what we talked about. One topic just led to another, the way it always did. I drove home afterward thinking about what a great day I'd had just sitting in a hospital room talking with my mom. There were so many moments like that throughout my adult life. Long conversations while driving somewhere during her visits, or while we sat together after the kids went to sleep. Those talks meant so much to me. I recently found an advice card she filled out at my baby shower for Booker. She wrote only one line: always tell the truth. She thought honesty was one of the most important core values a person could have. Along with honesty, my mom taught me kindness, respect, integrity, and compassion. She taught me to love reading and learning. I think both of us would have stayed in school forever if it weren't so expensive. Over the last several years, she took OLLI classes simply because she loved learning new things and meeting new people. She spoke about those classes so fondly. She said it was the perfect setup, all the joy of learning without the stress of tests. Sounds exactly like the kind of classes I would want to take too. From her, I got my sense of justice and faith, my love of Stouffer's mac and cheese, those cheap advent calendars, champagne salad dressing, and fresh-made donuts, the good kind, not the grocery store kind. She gave me my love of Christmas music, home gadgets, homeopathic remedies, and volunteer work. I used to ride with her while she delivered Meals on Wheels when I was in preschool. Anyone who knew my mom knew that her grandchildren brought her more joy than anything else in the world. They were what lit her up the most. Being a mother and grandmother brought her so much happiness, and we felt that love every day. My mom had a special bond with each one of my kids. Booker was her first grandson. She had very little experience with baby boys and almost none with toddler boys, so they formed a unique bond early on. And she quickly learned just how much energy it takes to keep up with my very active firstborn. By the time Ford was born, she was much more confident and knew exactly what she was getting into when she would visit. She spent so much time with him when he was little, especially after Brandon and I both started new jobs and needed a lot more help. She and Forden bonded over his endless curiosity and fascination with all things outdoors. She loved sitting back and watching the boys entertain her with their climbing, jumping, playing, and nonstop energy. And my youngest, my daughter Sosie, whose middle name is Anne after my mom, reminded her so much of me, probably because she looks so much like I did as a baby. Earlier this year, I asked my mom what her favorite age was when raising me, and she said 18 months old, which is exactly how old Sosie was during the last months my mom got to spend with her. I think seeing Sosie at that age brought back so many memories for her, all the excitement and joy that come with seeing the world through a toddler's eyes. Sosie was such a bright light during an incredibly difficult time for our family, and I think my mom and Sosie will always be connected because of that time they had together. My mom was an incredible mother because she had to be both parents for me. She had to raise me on her own, and I don't think I understood how hard that was until I became a parent myself. Now, especially on more challenging days, I often think, how did she do it? Being everything for your child requires endless strength, sacrifice, patience, and love. And somehow she gave me all of that while still making our life feel so full. We had adventures, meaningful conversations, and a happy home. I am the person I am today and the mother I am today because of her. Her absence is going to be felt so deeply because she was such a constant presence in our lives. She used to drive over an hour each way, morning and night, several days a week, just to help us with childcare while we were figuring out life with 3 young kids and full-time jobs. She never wanted to miss a special moment. There are times I would get to one of Booker's baseball games and see her already sitting in the bleachers because she had driven all that way just to be there for an afternoon t-ball game. That was who my mom was. She embodied unconditional love as a mother, as a grandmother, and as a person. The truth is, every day will be hard without her because my mom was always there. She was always eager to pick up the phone, spend time with us, help with the kids, or just talk. Since she passed, there have already been so many moments I've thought, I want my mom to see this. Booker's first play, Forden's first baseball game, a new word Sosie learned. And then I remind myself that she still does see it. It's just different now. The day my mom passed, I sat outside near our garden for a long time watching a butterfly. My mom loved butterflies. I remember hoping this was her way of comforting me. Since then, butterflies have appeared during so many moments when I'm feeling her absence the most. Flying near my car on the way to Booker's play, showing up while we're outside with the kids. Maybe it's coincidence or maybe not, but either way, they've become a reminder to me that she's still close. And I will miss her every single day. Thank you.
Wallace, thank you so much for sharing your experience with your mom. And thank you also for what a beautiful remembrance you've put together for all of us. Thank you. Jody, would you like to have something? I know you have something to share.
I just pull this thing down a little bit. Okay, good morning. On behalf of Wallace, her family, and Kendra, we thank you for being here today to celebrate KATHRYN Ann Stewart. I am Jody Champlin, a friend of Kathy and also of Wallace for over 30 years. In the next 6 minutes, I want to share with you some of my memories with her. First, a disclaimer. I must tell you that I am not a religious person. In fact, I'm not sure I'm even a spiritual person. There are people here today who can do a much better job discussing what happens after life is gone. But I can tell you a little bit about how I would like to live the rest of my life. And part of that is based on this little binder here that KATHRYN wrote in during the last years of her life. I asked KATHRYN and was given her permission to share some of her thoughts with you today. But first, what do I know about KATHRYN? Her name is KATHRYN Ann. Her mother's name was Anna Catherine. Their grandmother's name was KATHRYN Ann. And I bet you can guess the great-grandmother's name. Yes, it was Anna Catherine. Kathy wrote in here that this name developed backwards into the mist of time. One of Kathy's inspirations started when she was very young. She learned how to do it in her behavior before she could actually express it in words. Care where you can. Started early in her life because her mother was partially deaf and Kathy was her ears. The family was Christian Scientists, so helping her mother in church exposed Kathy to music because music is an integral part of the Christian Science religion. Kathy learned to play the violin, the guitar, she studied the piano, and she played in choirs and later on in several high school bands. Throughout her life, Kathy often listened to music because music soothed her. So it made sense that when Wallace asked for a set of drums, her mother understood how important music was. So she bought you that set of drums and a set of earplugs for herself. How do I know Kathy? Over 30 years ago, Wallace was selected to be part of an exceptionally gifted program for very brainy kids. My stepdaughter, Sydney, was part of this unusual group as well. And their peers, Jennifer, Stephanie, Ronnie, Tina, and Aaron, and others, they were all participants in other special programs. They were all growing up together. Kathy, being a single mom, and I being the dreaded stepmom, bonded during these monthly meetings with other parents, administrators, and teachers. There were endless discussions about how to engage these bright and occasionally difficult girls on their academic journey. Kathy and I became close friends. Neither one of us knew if we were really doing the right thing, and our anxiety bonded us together. But as she said, care where you can. As the school years and the decades went on, we became integral parts of each other's lives. We learned more about each other and our families. I learned she hated eggplant, but she considered donuts food of the gods. That's a direct quote. And she would drive for miles for exceptional cheese enchiladas. Remember, Kendra? Joe's African nut stew was one of her favorite dishes and one of the last meals that she requested. And for me, I will always miss her wild rice dish. It was delicious. She made Christmas a custom gift occasion. Her belief, care where you can, resulted in customized knitted baby hats, gloves, ski hats, scarves, and even socks. The perfect size and color for each person. Her attention to detail made us all feel special, and she always wanted Wallace to know how she cared for her. I remember Kathy's joy and pride when Wallace completed graduate school. and the giant restaurant celebration she hosted for all of us. She cared for Wallace in so many ways, and as many ways as she could. And then there was her wedding to Kendra, who Kathy wrote in here, brings out the best in me. And then 9 years ago, the wedding of Wallace and Brandon in our home and rescue. Kathy was joyous and resplendent to see her daughter marry Brandon, whom she considered a marvelous man and a great human being. And then arrived her grandchildren, 3 in 6 years. In here, she wrote that she could see God in the face of her grandchildren. And then she writes, she enjoyed talking to them because they have such an interesting way of looking at the world, and they're quite willing to share it with you. And little Sosie, Kathy could see Wallace in the face of her granddaughter. The legacy of strong Scottish women would carry on. So here we are. Kathy has physically left us. We are heartbroken. Oh, shoot. I leave you today, though, with another statement from her binder. And if we practice these words, then certainly Kathy's influence will live onwards in our lives. She writes, "The amount of good things in your life depends on your ability to notice them. It's not about having more. It's about seeing more. Gratitude sharpens your vision, and it makes you feel like your whole life is a whole lot fuller, even if nothing outside of you has changed." So, Kathy, we will do our best to notice the good things in life, to appreciate what we have, and to care where we can. We thank you for making our lives so much fuller and for caring about us. We miss you every day. Thank you. This is for you, for your mom.
Jody, thank you very much. And I was speaking with Wallace. Thank you for sharing out of that notebook. We would love to have copies of that so that we could continue to have these many messages, these profound experiences of love. She spoke about many things from this spot right here, but everything she spoke about was based on a foundation of love. I think that was her life. So at this time, Veronica, would you care to come up?
Okay, knowing Kathy stood here and did this makes me feel a little bit better because I just got nervous. I'm Ronnie, and I'm going to read from one of Kathy's mini messages that we were able to now see and read and discover, and that she gave here to this church. And I just want to say that I think this is probably one of the most incredible things I've ever seen somebody do. Like, it's a journal, but it's something that she spoke and she shared with other people, and she put down her thoughts and her ideas, and I know how nerve-wracking it was for her. So this one is called Success. It's from November 12th, 2023. I rarely consider myself a success. I have never had a career, something I was passionate about. Instead, I had jobs. I did own a house for a time, but then lost it in 2009, along with a large portion of the rest of the country. I had my utilities turned off more than once. I had the water turned off and my telephone turned off back when everyone had landlines. I have had credit cards canceled more than once. When I look back at this list, I see that all of these were about money. I was never very successful at money. I saw this meme on Facebook Saturday from someone I have never met, but who is on my friends list. What if your markers of success were how well you slept at night, how many books you read, how easily you laughed, how much time you spent storytelling, feeling warm in the arms and homes of the people you adore. It's by Emmy Ray on tinybuddha.com. I read this and thought, by such markers as these, I am enormously successful. I lost a house, but I was never homeless. I had services turned off, but I was always able to feed myself and my daughter. But probably most important of all, I had friends. If there was something my daughter needed that I could not provide at the time, there was always a friend that not only could but wanted to. She always had a beautiful dress for the prom. She always had new clothes to start school in September. If there was something that I didn't know how to do, there was almost always a friend who did. And if not, there was always a friend of a friend. I have a beautiful, talented, loving daughter. I have wonderful grandchildren. I have a son-in-law that remembered from a chance remark that I prefer 50% less sodium potato chips. I may not balance my checkbook, but I find the world around me vastly entertaining and amusing. I laugh every day. I am successful and wealthy beyond measure, and I am grateful.
Ronnie, thank you so much for that. See what I mean? Just based on love. And she spoke, it was always real, very real and authentic. And that's what people picked up on, always. All right, Jackie, would you care to come up?
Boy, this is a hard one to follow.
Yeah.
Okay, so Wallace has, it's not gonna work. Okay, Wallace asked me to read a poem, but then I realized I guess God have to know who I am. You're all part of my life, everybody in this room. Because I am Wallace's father's sister. I am Kathy's sister-in-law. And because of that relationship, I have a whole new family. And Borden and Booker and Sosie are all part of my life because of that. So when Kathy was passing, I asked her, why did you and my brother decide to have a child together? Now, you have to understand, both of them were extremely intelligent. Kathy and Keith never stopped going to classes. They always wanted to learn. They were very well written. As you can see, Kathy wrote wonderfully. My brother was published writing. They were both very crafty. They sold crafts on the streets in San Francisco. Kathy was doing leather work at the time. My brother was doing artwork at the time. So they were very similar in those ways. So I said, Kathy, what made you and my brother decide to have a child together? And she looked at me and she said, well, we looked alike. That was an answer I was not expecting, okay? So now I have to go back and look at pictures to see if they looked alike. She always had the same color hair, she said, oh, okay. They just surpassed all of the stuff that was really important, why they really were drawn to each other. So when my brother passed away in the very first wave of AIDS, when Wallace was 3, I tried to help Kathy and be part of the life, and I can remember going to your, what was it? It was a little ballet. And when you were at, what was the name of the school? KMS. Yes. So I would come up, because I live in San Diego. So many parts that she would invite me to. I can remember Kathy and I went to Rome together. Wallace was studying over there, and Wallace was getting a little homesick for her mom. Kathy had just been through her second wave of breast cancer. So Kathy and I get on the airplane and fly over to see her. What a great trip we had. I mean, to do that with Wallace. Kathy exposed me to art. She said, of all the things I want to see when I'm in Rome is I want to see the statue of David. And I thought, oh, okay, I don't know anything about the statue of David, but I'll go. You know? So we got on the train, went to Florence and stood in this long line. I will tell you, going through the room and seeing the statue of David at the other end of the hall, it took my breath away. I had never even concentrated on that, so that was very special. There's so many great memories of the family. A lot of the girls here, Wallace's friends, would come down to my house in San Diego, and because I lived on the beach, and they could just hang out and sleep on the floor in my little beach cottage. So thank you all for being part of my family. I will read my brother's poem. So if you can think of the times back 35, 34 years ago, in the very first wave of AIDS, and what his thoughts might have been, and what the world was like at that time. Okay. Oh. My sassy God, in the face of my death, don't tell me how to act. Don't tell me what to eat, what to drink, or how much, or suggest the pattern of sleep. In the face of my death, let me live. I will live my own way with my own passions, sharp like the heated granite edges, steaming and flying. I need sparks. I need love in all its acts, its scenes, its characters, its failed touches, its thick tongue. I will not lie here like your wilted flower, a mirror of your fears, a pastel shroud, too soft rock music or a hymnal. Don't tell me who your God is, or rhetoric about your God wears. That God you clutch like a rag doll in an Easter dress. My God is wild and wise, full of fun and grief, the fiery sun of love, the scorcher of skin, the mender of gaping wounds. My God rides circles around the mountains in a jet plane, lives under the concrete of my city stoop. My God is loud and sassy, then shy and retrieving. My God makes mistakes, or at least thinks so. My God seeks only the right thing for everyone. But well, you know how that is. My God tries, really tries. I may meet my God in an ashram or a crowded bar, but God is always smiling and generous. My God touches me with pure pleasure. My God wears wrinkles sometimes, wears a swarthy, tight skin others. My God fools around. My God dresses like a bum in rags and stands on corners sometimes. Other times my God dresses to kill to the nines, ready for Nob Hill parties, is the owner of corporations. My God is everywhere. My God is the night fire upon the sand, is beach, surf, heavens. My God counts the stars and throws another log on the red embers. My God grills a steak, prefers red wine to bottled water, stands at the edge of blackness and shouts love to the world. My God is everything, or so it seems. Now your God might be fine and nice, dressed cute at parties and other social occasions, might say the right things at the right moment, may sing kind of pretty, someone you take home to the folks, sit down at a polite dinner, but not my God, not necessarily. My God might do just about anything. Spill the green beans, speak dramatically about the first time I was caught masturbating, talk badly about the president, and tell Aunt Ruth she's full of shit. And even then, give the blessing at the end of the meal to all those present. My God was just as well dip into your heart as into the turkey dressing, into your secret as the yams, into your pretensions as the Waldorf salad. There are those who would say our gods are the same. I'm not sure. My God doesn't want money, only results. Wants to talk politics, then art. Sociology, then poetry. Depending upon the content, there are exceptions. My God wants passion in all the swarthing ways. My God wants heaven on earth. My God wants too much. Now, I may tell you that my God is not your God because I don't want to hear about your God anymore. I'm sick and tired of your God's sniveling ways of saying, do this or that. And if your dying is getting ready for me, but my God would probably tell me to shut up, would probably say that my God is your God too, would take this kiss from under my tongue, hold it for you to see, and then tell you I had my reasons, that I have tried, that I have loved. And when I die, my God would roll out the casket into the crowd and get the crowd dancing. My God would go home with anyone despite your assumptions. My God is quite disconcerting, and if you're sad, my God would lie beside you, dab the corners of your eyes, and in the morning tell you to get your ass out of bed. My God would tell you you got a lot of living to do, a lot of living and crying and screaming and sulking and laughing, trying, running, and striving to do. You have a lot to do and absolutely nothing to prove.
Jackie, thank you. And you guys are tired of hearing all those old people stand up and talk and talk and talk and talk. There's some coloring books right back there in that little bookcase. If someone would go back and grab a couple coloring books and some crayons right there and bring them up, I'll bet they would enjoy playing with the books. You can go look at them. This is a time when we're going to share our thoughts and stories, and I'm going to kick it off. I remember when KATHRYN came to church the first few times, and then Kendra came, and they both joined pretty soonly. And it was like letting the animal out of the cage. KATHRYN just jumped in. Wasn't long before she was on the board. She started giving many messages, and wasn't long before she wound up being chairman of our board. And this was home for her. She just loved this place. And she and I became, as she was the board chairman, she and I became very close, very good friends. And uh, it's just such a pleasure to have that friendship in my heart forever and ever. Okay, who would like to share a story or a thought? Don't be shy. Yes, come right forward.
I'll share. I'll share from here.
Okay.
Everybody can hear me. I'm Ronnie's mom. So I had the pleasure of every Christmas Eve spending with Wallace and Kathy. And she would come over. I love the story about, she always gave everything she had to give. She would make these really special ornaments for me. Always came full of life, always came ready to have a party, always came with that listening heart. That's what I remember most about Kathy, was how she would just be with, and it didn't matter who was in the house, and it didn't matter who was talking to her. She just had this, she came always from this place of kindness. She loved Wallace more than anything. She and I coached soccer together. Neither one of us knew how to do it. We were really bad at it, but we had a lot of fun. Go Partners. Yeah. So, we did it together. There wasn't anybody else that stood up, and Kathy said, I'll do it. And I said, well, Kathy, if you're going to do it, I'll do it too. So I just have so many fond memories of Kathy in her blue van, driving Wallace to school with donuts on her mouth. Just all those wonderful memories of watching the kids grow up together and getting to do that with Kathy. And, I spent some time with Kathy when she first got sick. And it was an honor to be able to serve her when she needed it. And I'll always be grateful for all the You know, Wallace, you've turned out to be a beautiful human being because of your mother. So she'll be missed, and you know, I just love you very much.
Thank you. Anyone else? Yes. You're welcome to come up front if you want. We've got a microphone here so everyone can hear.
No, my name is Lori Ingram, and my son's Brandon Aguilar, married to Wallace. And there's many conversations that KATHRYN and I have had between as grandparents. And I can tell you that there's something that I'll never forget that she said to me. Because she said to me, "Thank you for bringing Brandon into this world and bringing him to my daughter." And I said, "We did it together." And she's, at one point when I said to her, and I'm going to jump all over the place, there's a time that I would think Wallace wouldn't even know that we had this conversation, because I would pick up the phone and call KATHRYN. And I would tell her, "Thank you for being there for the grandchildren," because we couldn't get our schedules together. And she said to me, she said, we are both grandma number ones, Lori. There's no competition, and I absolutely love you, and I want you to know how much I'm so happy that you're into my life. You're in my life. So, and I think there's a lot more, but right now I can't think about it. But we always had, at Christmas time, and Grant was going to wear, we always had our beanies. Because she always knew that we would go to the barn and we would clean, and she wanted to make sure that we were always warm. So we have about 50 beanies at home in our drawer, and they never wear out. So KATHRYN, we love you. Thank you for being such a wonderful person and such a wonderful grandma and mother-in-law to my son. Thank you. And Wallace, I love you so much.
Thank you very much. Who would like to come up next? Oh, you can come up or stand up or whatever you like to do. Okay.
KATHRYN became my friend just a couple of years ago. She was hired by my daughter as a dog walker. We have 3 dogs, and people were going out of town, and I couldn't really handle all the walking of the dogs, so she came to help. Because she came frequently, I got to know her. She'd sit down and we'd talk. And she said, "You know, I take some classes over at university. Have you ever thought about it?" Well, my daughter has suggested it several times, and I said, "I'm not interested in any classes." But when KATHRYN told me how interesting it was and how much fun, I told my daughter, "I think I'm going to sign up for classes." Everything I suggest to you is no good unless somebody else really loves it. So anyway, that's how our friendship started. I would drive my 3 grandsons to school in the morning. Then I would run to the kiosk at the university to buy her $6 parking ticket, even for handicap parking. And then I would run home. She would pick me up in her little red car with classical music playing, and I would then use my handicap thing and my parking sticker, and she would drive me to, that's how we worked together. And we would walk quite a ways to the place where we had our class, and she was always so much better than I was. She would just walk along, and I'd kind of, "Wait for me." And so I was really amazed at how her energy was so good. She had no trouble walking quite a distance. And we we had so many long talks, and I thought I would mention to you the most interesting, strange piece of information she gave me. And some of you are old enough to recall the political happening that she was talking about. So let me explain. She told me her father was definitely into cameras. He was just a magical camera person. She said there was a little round table in their house with the parts of a camera all out, and he was going to put that camera together and no one was to touch it. She said it never got touched even by him for 10 years. She said nobody touched his camera stuff. She said, are you old enough to remember the U-2 incident? And I don't know how many of you are old enough, but I think some of you will remember it. It was a spy plane sent by the United States over, and this was during the Cold War, over Soviet Union, and it was to take pictures. It was a spy plane, but he got shot down, and it was a very big deal. And she said, you remember that incident? I said, oh, of course, it was a very big deal. She said, well, my father designed the cameras in the U-2 in that particular plane to do what they were supposed to do. It was very highly classified, fancy camera work. And I thought, wow, that's something, that somebody's father designed the cameras for the U-2 incident. That was cool. So anyway, that's the kind of stuff I learned from her. She was just always full of interesting information, always positive, always knitting. I didn't understand how she could do everything else, talk and everything else, and just be knitting away. So anyway, I just enjoyed her company so much. And I hadn't made any new adult friends in a long time. Most of my friends were high school, college, whatever. And so it was especially nice for me to have a friend that I could go and see, or we could go for a walk together or whatever, which is really wonderful. And interestingly enough, in the fall of 1924, she and I took a class together at the university called End of Life Issues. Was it yeah. Very, oh, I don't know which year it was. You never know when your end of life is coming, so I don't know. But anyway, she and I took a class together. It ended in November, or whatever year that was. Neither of us had cancer at the time. And then January, just a few months later, she got her diagnosis. And I got my diagnosis in February. So we did the end of life issues class together, and then we dealt with some of the end of life issues personally. And I always felt bad that she'd already been through breast cancer twice, 20 years ago or 30 years ago or something. And she was very helpful to me along the way. And fortunately for me, after radiation and everything, I'm good to go for another couple of years. But I talk to KATHRYN daily, every night when I go to bed especially. She's waiting for me. She's checking things out. And I waved to her over the bridge. And I know she's waiting for me. And we'll be delighted to see her in person, her spirit in person. And I certainly enjoyed her while she was on the earth.
Thank you very much. You can ask a question. Anyone else? Yes, come right on up. Or you can stand if you want to.
Yeah, speak up. Yeah, okay. This is my stepmom, Jody. Never could have guessed it. I've known Wallace and Kathy for over 30 years. We're only in our 20s though, so. But I made fast friends with Wallace when Kathy and her moved up the hill from the Bay Area into immediately Kathy started having me over to babysit me when my parents were gone. And Wallace and I spent a lot of time sitting on the floor in the living room playing Nintendo 64, like a lot of time. And it was wonderful because Kathy was always there, but she wasn't super involved. not helicoptering, I don't know if it was like that, but always kept a great eye on us. And she would come into the garage where Wallace and I would have fake restaurants, and we would do Selena performances for, well, Kathy. But as I grew older, I started crafting, and so I moved away pretty much immediately when I could. So I love you so much. But I would come back for holidays, and Kathy was a staple, obviously. And I would bring my knitting, and Kathy would have her knitting, and so we were able to sit and show each other, talk about what we were doing, because we didn't really have a lot of other people that we could talk about this with. And it was always so much fun to be able to, discuss our ongoing projects. But the one thing I really wanted to bring up, and one thing that I am just overjoyed that she passed on to Wallace, was her love of animals. And I haven't heard that mentioned yet, but she would have done anything for any of her animals. And I think that really says, for a lot of even strangers, I think that's all I need to know about them. Kathy was always, so I would bring my dogs down, and Kathy would just get on the ground and just, my husky Ilsa was just so involved in Ilsa, and Ilsa really hated people, but she was fine with Kathy, because I mean, animals sense that good spirit. They know that at your core that you are sending them love, and Kathy had that. So she obviously has passed that on to Wallace, and her French Bulldog obsession. And I think that that's just an incredible trait to have given to her daughter. So we miss you.
Thank you. Anyone else?
I'm a really big crier, so I'm really trying to get the words out. But I really want to thank Kathy for the friendship that Wallace and I have. We've been friends since we were 1.5 at KMS, the Catherine Michael School, and we were very close friends. And when Wallace moved up to Rescue in Cameron Park area, it could be the end for some friendships. That's a long ways away for little kids to be like, I want to see my friend. You know what I mean? And Kathy made it such a big part of coming down and meeting halfway in the nut tree. Do you remember that? We had to go to Sizzler, and I was so excited. My dad didn't really have any junk food, and Kathy's like, have the buffet. And the blue band was such a big part of our childhood, and Nintendo 64, and the trampoline, everything at Kathy's house, the drum set. I mean, it's probably the best memories of my childhood were at her house, and how much she dedicated to Wallace and her friends. I was able to say thank you to her as well at her end of life. And I can't remember what she said, but it was like a joke. She just had such a wit. I think she even said well, I could not, or something like that, because you guys were so obsessed with each other or something like that. But just wanted to say thank you to her.
Thank you. Anyone else?
Yeah, okay, I'm gonna say one thing.
Okay, go ahead.
I think I just realized in listening to everyone share, I don't think I ever really put this together as concretely, but I spent a lot of time with Kathy, just me and her. We dropped Wallace off to school, we drove back together, we had these stretches of time. And Wallace and I were really close, but there was stuff that Wallace didn't always share with me, and her mom did. And I know that sounds weird, but I got so close though to you and to Wallace and to shared with me, and in doing that, she truly taught me about being your own person. And I grew up in a small town, and I had an amazing family, but Kathy taught me, I think, something bigger. Like the world was a little bit bigger, a little bit more different than maybe what I was exposed to all of the time. And I think that now hearing all this, I'm like, this is so fundamental to who I am today. And she loved books. She introduced me to my favorite witch series, Discovery of Witches. We both loved. And I just realized how, like, as I think about this, like, how many things in my life are because of her that I never really thought about before. And I just want to say thank you to her.
Thank you. Anyone else? Okay.
I'd like to say something. My name is Nick Snyder, and I grew up with Wallace. And Kathy helped raise me, up until 8, 7 or 8, maybe 9. And I believe a thank you was in order for myself and for my mother. I'm a few years older than Wallace, and my mother needed help, and Kathy was that for my mother. And you couldn't just drop me off at anybody's house. I'll let you, my mother has stories upon stories. I would come back spanked, and Kathy was very firm. I don't know if you knew that, but she was kind also, very kind. And I was always taken care of, and it was no, you can't. It was never no, you can't bring him over. It was like, yeah, bring him over. Don't hit him. Just bring him over here. And she didn't need to be that patient with me, but she was. And the love of animals for sure. I'm a big animal lover to this day. I tried to get a bird out of a cat's mouth yesterday. And it's all, it's because of all of the people like Kathy that supported my mother. And so I just want to tell Wallace, thank you for doing that for us.
Thank you. Anyone else? Well, I've got a couple of things to say. Today is being live streamed on YouTube. And you can go anytime you want. It'll be there forever, as long as we pay our bill, if you go to Church of the Oaks at YouTube, you'll see our little round picture of our little white church with the red door. Click on that, and you may see strange dates. Every little movie is got a date. And if they're all mixed up and not in order, scroll down a line or two until you see most recent live uploads. That's where we're at, and you'll be the first one. It's in chronological order, starting with the most recent. Anything else to add, Wallace? Then we would like to invite you to come next door and join us for a reception. But until that time, I'm not going to forget. Until that time, we're going to end this special celebration with Aaron playing the cello for us. And I'd like to offer a little thought that you might have on your mind as Aaron plays. KATHRYN and I had a wonderful quote that we shared that we liked. And it was a quote from Maya Angelou. And the quote is, "Folks may not remember what you say or what you do, but they'll never forget how you made them feel." Ponder that. Aaron? thank you so much for such a beautiful way to close this part of our celebration. So thank you all for coming, and let the celebration continue next door with reception and fellowship and love. Thank you for being here. Oh, I'm going to do something. We're going to ring the bell. We're just going to ring the bell. If you guys would like to help, would you give us a hand?